Talk Radio 640 WGST.
Everybody get up.
Now back to the Dana Barrett Show here on WGST.
The president obviously worried about the election results in Florida, tweeting about it quite frequently over the course of the weekend. It is probably the most high profile of all of the outstanding undecided votes or elections coming out of the midterm cycle, because we still have several states with contentious undecided races. And that includes us here in Georgia, Florida, and Arizona. But for a moment, let's just stick with Florida. So in Florida over the weekend, Governor Rick Scott, of course, who is running for the Senate seat, has filed, I think, several different lawsuits against each of the counties that he feels like didn't handle their elections properly. So that's definitely Broward County, Palm Beach County, and I think there's one other, and I don't recall what it is, but I'm pretty sure he filed 3 suits over the weekend, and also, made the rounds, did the shows, if you will. Just today, this just coming in now, his opponent in the race, the incumbent Democratic Senator Bill Nelson, has also now, as of today, filed a federal lawsuit that claims Florida is disenfranchising voters by not counting mail-in ballots it received after Election Day. And this is coming after about 266 absentee ballots from one of the sorting facilities. Apparently, let's see, they I guess they came into there and they're saying they weren't counted. They came into an Opelika sorting facility in Miami-Dade area. But they say all of the mail has to be received when the polls close, which was 7 p.m. on November 6th. And I think it's what they're saying is those came in but weren't counted in time is what I'm getting at there. But in any case, now we have competing lawsuits in that state. So yay for that. And, Trump jumping in and just saying via Twitter that Florida should give the election to the Republicans. Like, A, stay out of it. B, what? So you're saying don't count the votes? Just do what feels right? Look, here's what's really fascinating about this. In particular in the governor's race. So there are 3 races in Florida that are going to a recount based on Florida law. This is not based on anybody complaining or suing. This is because they were within 0.5%. That's the rule. If you're within 0.5% from a margin perspective, it goes to a recount. First a computer-based recount and then a manual recount is my understanding. And there are 3 races. The 2 that we're most interested in are the bigger of the 2 of the 3, and that is the governor race, the gubernatorial race, and the race for Senate. And so in both of those 2 high-profile races, it is most likely that even after the recount, the Republicans will still win. It is very much likely in the gubernatorial race there, which is why you don't have Ron DeSantis saying a whole lot. He's basically just saying, I'm the winner and bye-bye. Like, he hasn't really gotten into, like, don't do it or whatever. He's just sort of said, I'm confident that even with the recount, I'm going to be the governor, and thank you, Florida, for choosing me, and yeah, love you, mean it. And then you have Andrew Gillum, who had already conceded because he ran the numbers and it didn't look like there was any way for him to win. But now, understanding what he's understanding, he has sort of rescinded his concession because he wants the votes counted.
In America, we count every vote regardless of what the outcome may be. I am replacing my words of concession with an uncompromised and unapologetic call that we count every single vote. We count every vote. And I say this recognizing that my fate in this may or may not change.
I mean, first of all, that recording sounded like he was inside a video game. Like, I don't know what was happening there, like, or there was like just some really loud, what do they call those, palmetto bugs or something in the room. It is Florida, so you never know. In any case, that's like what they call cockroaches in Florida, right? Or we do that here in Georgia too.
They are. They're cockroaches, but they fly.
So they're palmetto bugs. So that sounds nicer.
Yeah.
They're just flying cockroaches,
right,
let's
gross.
be honest. And they make a lot of noise. Maybe that's what was going on in that recording. Anyway, Andrew Gillum just saying all votes should be counted. And I think that's legit. And he's saying, I get it. I may not win. I'm not saying this because I think I'm going to get the number I need here, but I'm saying it because that's the American way and that's what we should say. So you've got that going on. And then you have the senatorial race between the current governor, Rick Scott, which is bizarre if you think about it, because everything he's complaining about was under his control. States run their own elections. All of that bubbles up to the top guy. And if he didn't, while he was in office, make sure that the voting systems in Florida were improved, mirror much? Like that's, you gotta take, you the top dog. You gotta take responsibility. But instead he's screaming fraud.
We know Senator Nelson's lawyer said that a non-citizen should have the right to vote. Senator Nelson has gone to court to say that fraudulent ballots that were not properly delivered, signed, whatever, should be counted. Okay, Senator Nelson is clearly trying to commit fraud to try to win this election. That's all this is.
All right, look. There's no evidence of fraud, so I'm not really sure why he's going there. And I have to point out that in addition to it looking like no matter what, Ron DeSantis is probably going to win the governorship, it is most likely that Rick Scott will win the Senate seat. But so why put all this out there? Why not just let the recount happen? And then if there's a reason to sue after that, then sue after that. But to try to sue beforehand just makes it look like you stole the election. You know, there's optics here too. And if you really think that if the votes are recounted, I mean, insist on that they be recounted fairly. But if you're really worried that that difference is going to be made up, then there's something else going on here, and it smells bad to me. They are closer, so there is a bigger chance that that Bill Nelson could take the Senate seat versus Andrew Gillum being able to take the job of governor. So we'll see, but it could be months. We don't know. I mean, even if they get the recount done, there's counties saying they're not going to be able to get the recount done by Thursday. And in fairness to them, because immediately I start thinking incompetence when I hear that. And by the way, I think there is some incompetence going on in Florida when it comes to all of this. But when they say that, here's what you have to remember. When they did the presidential recount in 2000, they were recounting for one race. Now they're recounting for three. And to do that in the time allotted, which is by this Thursday. So I hope they just do the Senate race first, because that does seem like the most important of the three and the most likely to potentially swing one way or the other, the closest of the three. So that's what's going on that race. We'll continue to watch it. And like I said, I kind of think no matter what happens, we've already got lawsuits filed. I suspect we may see more lawsuits in Florida over this. But we have short timers disease in this country. And that is like the minute all of this is over, we'll forget about it until the next time. We need a better way of keeping these issues in the forefront so that they get resolved when these people take office so that they can't happen again. But this is an ongoing problem. This is not just about voting. We have this problem with everything. We get fired up about gun control after a shooting, and then we forget about it 3 weeks later. We get fired up about, voter reform during the election season, and then we forget about it. We get fired up about tariffs, when the headline says tariffs, and then we forget about it, unless you're directly affected. But the nation needs to figure out a way to keep these issues forefront, or we're never going to get real change. We're just going to keep talking about these wedge issues and these fringe issues that have nothing to really do with how we live our lives. We're just going to continue to, it's like that cycle of I'm going to do the same thing and expect different results. It doesn't work like that. All right, let's talk about Georgia for a moment, because a lot going on here as well in terms of lawsuits. Stacey Abrams has now filed a lawsuit as well, requesting that all votes be counted here in our state. But beyond that, we have another runoff. Whether or not there's a runoff between Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp, we do have another runoff that is happening in the state regardless. And that is for Secretary of State, which is Brian Kemp's current job. That race was within the margin. In other words, the leader got 50% or less of the vote, and therefore they're automatically going to a runoff. And so it's an important one. So here's what's going on. You've got Democrat John Barrow who is up against Republican Brad Raffensperger. I think that's how you say it. And neither one are really fans of the far reaches of the parties, the base, if you will. They're both, I think, somewhat more moderate. So it's sort of an interesting race from that perspective. But Barrow, who is the Democrat, has talked about using the Secretary of State's office to fix gerrymandering, and using it, if he gets the seat, to use the power of that platform and the power of the voice he would have in that role to work on moving the state to, as he calls them, unhackable paper ballots, which I guess I'm going to have to live with in the short term until one of you tech geniuses figures out a way for us to have a digital system that actually functions like it's, 2018 instead of partying like it's 1999. Come on, for realsies, like, we got to go to paper to be. I want a paper backup, I do, but I also want to move forward in the technology.
Right. Is it really so hard to, like, print a receipt? Because that's essentially what it would do, right? Print a vote
Starbucks
receipt.
Can do it.
Yeah. I can go into a store 30 days later and be like, I bought a loaf of bread with a card, and they can pull a receipt.
Thank you.
So
hello. I don't understand. It seems to me pretty clear that you could go on, walk into the place put some cybersecurity. I don't know. That's not my world, but put it in there. Make sure it's secure. Go in, do a digital vote with a receipt printer. Have the receipt printer print out. You can read it down, verify that it's correct. Hand it in. Get your sticker. Keep a copy for yourself. Keep a copy for them. And by the way, you should be able to go online. I don't know if you can do this now or not, but you should also be able to go online after the fact and make sure your vote was counted, that it wasn't rejected for some reason. Right? Just saying. In any case, Barrow wants to use the office for that, and he wants to move quickly to the paper ballots, whereas Raffensperger is basically running as Kemp Jr. So if Raffensperger wins, then we can look forward to more contentious races in the future, and more of the craziness we had this go round with Kemp. So if we have this runoff and it's just the two of them, it's going to be a far lower profile race, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make it higher profile so you will go and vote, because we got to stop the gerrymandering, and we have to have a voting system in the state that we